Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. In this episode of the Automation Podcast, I sit down with Colin Morris of MaintainX to learn all about their CMS product. Colin, thank you for coming on the show. I am excited to talk all about what we're going to jump into today. But before we start getting into that, could you first introduce yourself to our audience? Tell them who you are, what you do, and really give them a feeling for what your company does.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Shawn. So my name's Colin Morris. I'm the Director of Solution Consulting for MaintainX. I've been working within the CMMS and EAM industry for the past 7.5 years. Spent about just over 5 years at Rockwell Automation on the Fix product and joined MaintainX just under 2 years ago at this point. What MaintainX does, it's a mobile-first CMMS and EAM application focused on the end user. So being able to allow for easy collection of data, understanding in terms of preventative maintenance schedules, asset management, and MRO spares. And ultimately, we're trying to help our customers reduce their downtime, their maintenance costs, and ensure that they're going to be running as operationally efficiently as possible.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think anybody who follows Rockwell has heard Fix, Fix, Fix. I mean, there was a big purchase for them years ago,
Yeah.
and it's been really promoted. And before that, going way back, we all heard about a package called Maximo. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
And that was, gee whiz, that's going back into the 2000s, I think. And so I think a lot of us in plant are familiar with these packages, and maybe not something. And I'd be interested for the audience to tell us, are you using packages like these yourselves, or are you working with the people who are using them? The people who you're working on beside the people who are using these packages? Because I think a lot of times the controls engineer, electrical engineer, and automation engineer get pulled in to review these packages to make sure they're going to be compatible with what they're using on the plant floor, and to see what kind of synergies can go between maybe SCADA and ERP and these type of packages. But for those of our audience who maybe aren't familiar with your package or the other packages we mentioned, could you just maybe give us like a intro to what these packages do?
Yeah, of course. So CMMS is a computerized maintenance management system. Ultimately, our goal is to help digitize existing maintenance practices and give a extensible interface to our end users. So we do offer things like ERP integrations into SAP, for example, as well as integrations into a variety of OT systems. So we actually have an MQTT Sparkplug B agent that allows us to connect directly into brokers and surface data to influence the maintenance schedules. So whether they be condition-based triggers or usage-based triggers, ultimate goal of that is to reduce their downtime, understand the fault classification and status from their machines, and ultimately just help to reduce costs that it takes to maintain equipment.
Yeah, and let's talk about some of the just to kind of fill this in, some of the more common things people see. Like I know
Sure.
you have large motors, you got to maintain them. They're very, very expensive. I think
Yeah.
most people not in this industry would be surprised how expensive a large motor is, and they can be more than the cost of a house. Um, and so they need to be maintained, right? So
Yeah.
we're not talking engines like in cars, although those need to be maintained as well. We're talking electrical motors. And then, there's bearings, there's even VFDs, variable frequency drives. I mean, they need to have the fans and the filters, and there's all these things that have to be done to keep these really high horsepower drives running.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things that you may see on a production floor that people that need to be maintained?
It's ultimately any equipment that could cause breakdowns and cause downtime for their production lines. So things like air compressors, boilers, any of the cobots, or any other type of equipment that is directly used within the manufacturing environment. The other one that some people forget is, of course, the facility itself. A lot of our customers maintain the equipment on the production line, but also, hey, sometimes you got to do maintenance on your HVAC units up on the roof. So all of that is maintained within our application, assigned out to the appropriate people, and we provide digital work instructions on how to actually go through and perform maintenance actions.
Yeah, and for those older folks, if you have a bunch of old PLCs out there, you can replace that battery every so often. And I
Yep.
would like to add that you should probably have a regular backup of if you don't have an automated system, we've had the automated system people on. If you don't have an
Yeah.
automated system, you really need to be backing up that program, right? And these files are tiny. You can fit 100,000 on a flash drive. So there's no excuse that you have too many copies. but when, we see machines actually get scrapped when they can't because they're so complicated, nobody can come in and
Yeah,
program them efficiently. So be backing up your programs as well. And so with that said, let's talk about, so you said your company, your product is mobile first, and I think a
that's right.
lot of people's ears perk up on that because we all have this with us all day. We have our
Yeah,
it's not showing. Okay, we have our phones black on black, not good showing. But in any case, we have our phones with us all the time, maybe even tablets. We've had people on who do the AR, VR type of
Mhm.
3D extrapolation or overlays on top of the 3D scene. But in any case, what's better than a text or a notification on your phone than having to
Sure.
walk all the way back to your office and sit down at a computer? In most cases, they're old, they haven't been updated in a while, they're slow. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about why you guys decided to focus on mobile first.
Yeah, ultimately, I think mobile first is we're meeting our technicians where they're at. As you said, most people don't want to walk back to the office to understand where they have the spare parts, understand what they need to do to maintain a piece of equipment. And so our goal is to allow any of our end users to be able to bring out a phone, bring out a tablet, and actually understand what they need to do to maintain that piece of equipment. With that comes, those digital work instructions. So being able to upload videos, being able to upload different pictures and other tooling. About 91% of our technicians actually use our mobile device. So telling you how much that end user adoption is, because fundamentally, without good data ingest, you're not going to be able to have good maintenance practices. And so we really focus on that end user experience. One of our co-founders likes to say, you never receive training on Facebook, so why should you receive training on a CMS? And that's how simple we want to make it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, so, typically you think of a CMS, it's going to give you the procedure to change a bearing or to lube a bearing,
Yeah.
whatever you're doing, right? But can I also do like kind of capture like faults? Like, hey,
Yeah.
I just don't want to fix this. I want to capture what went wrong and maybe we'll discuss it later.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of customers use those OT integrations. So our MQTT agent that I mentioned previously to be able to automatically push that information into our system. Anytime one of those faults comes in, we have an automation engine in place and it can actually automatically trigger troubleshooting instructions for that end user. The other big one that we see sometimes is having a call to maintenance button on the HMI. So rather than them having to be direct users within the application, you hit that Boolean field on that HMI and it creates a work request directly within our application to have somebody come out, do an inspection, and see if anything needs to be done ultimately. So we're trying to reduce the barriers to put in those maintenance requests and work orders. A lot of the time we hear customers are just using radios. That's really hard to hear a lot of the time within loud environments. And so getting that push notification or email notification that a new request has come in can help to simplify that process and ensure that we get that equipment back up and running as fast as possible.
Well, and two, if it's not an emergency, if it's something that needs to be fixed, but it's not an emergency, you don't want to call somebody on
Yeah,
the radio. I mean,
exactly.
they're going to be able to write it down, and you may forget. I can definitely see like on an HMI having like a button. Hey, the light in the panel's out. We need to get that replaced. Or um, we're running hot a lot. We need to check the filters. Or
Yeah.
whatever it is, you could have all these buttons, and then it could. And you're saying the OT integration would be to be a MQTT.
Yeah, that's right. We're using an MQTT agent using Sparkplug B. Why we did that? Standardized messaging protocol. It gives us all that metadata that's important to help
Sure.
predict failures. We are going to be supporting some additional protocols in the future, so just flat MQTT, for example. And we're also building out a suite of integrations into other OT platforms.
Okay.
So allowing for native connectivity into the tools that everybody's using today, ultimately.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about MQTT. So anybody interested, we have previous episodes on that and episodes of the automation show on that as well. So there's a lot of integrations. If you're a vendor of choice in the industrial automation space, OT space, doesn't have that, we've covered different products that get you that plugin. A lot of times OPC to MQTT or other ways of doing that with software and hardware vendors. So that's really interesting. So I guess from there, what makes it so besides being mobile first, what makes you guys different or better than the competition?
I think honestly, one of the biggest one is having that MQTT support. We wanted to have an open architecture, so allowing the ingest of data from a variety of different locations. We also do have a event-driven architecture, so webhooks and subscription services that are available directly within our API to communicate back and forth. One of those big ones is the UNS, of course. So being able to push that data into different locations, pub, sub, and everything else that comes along with it. I think the other big one is just the tooling that we have and the rate of innovation. We are lucky that we're, a newer entrant into the market, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a robust feature set. It also means that we can develop things a lot faster. We typically release 3 to 4 times per week on our web client and weekly on our mobile. And so you see a lot of innovation and change all included within your subscription. Last thing I would say is just our generalized strategy in terms of AI. We've focused a lot in terms of giving easy to understand data to our end users. So referencing OEM manuals, being able to flag anomalous data through manual inputs, or alternatively, automatically helping to capture things like estimated times and providing recommendations to get better labor efficiency. So in short, we're really trying to make the easiest to use platform that has extensibility and connectivity, as well as just ensuring that we're getting good quality data from our end users.
Excellent. And I'm just thinking as you were talking, I'm thinking, all right, so we got apps that get updated. They're load onto our mobile devices. I'm assuming iOS and Android is what spans the
Yeah, that's
board.
right.
Okay. Like there's anything else. Unfortunately. So let's talk about this. What does an implementation look like? Well, first of all, could you give the audience the name of the website? Because I'm sure some of them are sitting at the keyboard like, I want to check this out as I listen to these guys.
It's getmaintainx.com.
Getmaintainx.com. Okay.
Yeah.
And let's talk about a deployment. Let's say somebody,
Sure.
they talk with your people, they decide they want it. Is this an on-premise or in-cloud solution?
100% cloud offering. So we're hosted in AWS. We do everything internally ourselves, so all developed in North America, and we have continuous uptime. So that's one of the advantages. There's no downtime. Anytime we push an update, you're always on the most up-to-date version. It's like Netflix. You sign in, something slightly changed, but hasn't impacted your end user experience.
Now, I know some people will be concerned about security by connecting their plant to the cloud.
Sure.
How do you guys address that?
Yeah, so when it comes to our application, it is standalone, so it doesn't necessarily need to be installed directly on the network. If we're going into the MQTT route, we would have to install an on-premise agent. It only has outbound connections a lot of the time through port 443, so you probably already have that exposed to do any of your other IoT dashboarding or any other analytics that you have within the system. Outside of that, we also have SOC 2, which is a security compliance metric where we do continuous improvement, as well as ISO 27001. So another one of those certificates that kind of shows just the level of security that we have in our application. All data is also encrypted. So whether it be in rest or in transit, there's no concerns in terms of intercepting packages, for example. It's a highly secure application working across a variety of industries.
So you get the information going back and forth to the mobile app and the cloud encrypted, so you're good there. We got SOC 2, which we've heard a lot about from other vendors, how demanding that is to meet those requirements. Yeah. And if you are using MQTT and you're sending it one direction from your control system to the cloud, that's going to be encrypted, but also, you don't have to worry about somebody changing the level of an ingredient in a product or dosing, because it's just all going out. It's not coming in. It's not like remote accessing a SCADA panel and being able to control the whole plant. This is very low risk, very low footprint for anybody to do any harm. Well, that's very interesting. Now, some of the major features of your product, I think you've covered a lot of them so far, but can you tell us some more about it? Because I
Sure.
I think we just covered the highlights, but we haven't really dug into it, right?
Yeah, so a lot of our customers they're using a variety of different modules within the application. One of the biggest ones is digitizing their assets. A lot of the time, our customers have something within their ERP. It's usually not a comprehensive list. And so being able to actually understand the pieces of machinery that are on the shop floor, the individualized components, the spare parts, and helping to surface that data to our end users to better understand the maintenance practices. With that does come a variety of different enterprise features. So we have the ability to standardize in terms of naming convention, the fields and data that we collect to ensure that we have consistency across not only a single plant, but multiple plants. And then also getting into things like our SOPs and SOWs. So I briefly mentioned that in terms of getting digital work instructions. Those don't necessarily need to be just for maintenance actions. They can be operator checklists. They can be quality checks. And so we're taking existing documentation, recreating it within our system with a variety of different steps, whether they be checklists, inspection tasks, signature fields, and ultimately trying to give more information to our end users, whether it be operationally focused, maintenance focused, or just general checks that need to be completed within the business.
Yeah, would you say I could see you have both customers coming from other packages and
Yeah.
from people who are doing manual tasks? I mean, what is some of the, I mean, the manual tasks, I could see a lot of that definition stuff you talked about, especially
Yeah.
naming conventions, so important, right? And
Yeah.
standardization of the forms so the app presents everything in a nice, concise, and solid way that, everybody can understand. Um, but when they're coming from other platforms, it if if the other platform was implemented well, I would imagine that would probably be an easier migration.
Yeah, generally speaking, it's pretty straightforward. Most of these applications give you the ability to export that data into CSVs or a SQL database. And so we can take that information and transpose it into our application. Part of our implementation services is consulting on that data. So providing recommendations on how we can adjust it, change it, make it more robust, and then ultimately import it into our system.
Yep.
That implementation process can be as little as 3 weeks on average. It can go longer or shorter depending on, how much data you already have available. But ultimately, we're trying to get our end users into the system as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And that migration is something that we do hundreds of times every year.
Yeah. Yeah. And so can you give me a range of like how many like app users, like from low to high, like what would a small company have for how many users? Because I think a lot of times people are
Yeah.
doing the manual process because they don't have, 10,000 techs out there fixing stuff, right? And so they're like, I can't afford the $1 billion to buy one of these CMS systems. So
Yeah.
like low end to high end, like what does a small company have for users versus like a larger company?
We see people using a single person. So it's, a small machining shop. They have a single person that's going to be responsible for maintenance. It could be the plant manager, it could be the operations manager, and they're going in and capturing any of that information to understand their maintenance schedules to, Fortune 100 companies. So thousands of users globally going in and accessing the system. Right now, we have just over 11,000 customers in 120 countries. So we are global at this point, and we'll meet you where you're at. So ensuring that we have the appropriate number of people within the system. Anybody that is, executing, planning, scheduling maintenance are going to be users within our application. So it varies greatly based upon the size of the maintenance team. We also see people using it for third parties. So sending off work orders directly to those contractors to execute against work orders. That's included within our package for free for those end users. So it can be pretty big to very small, depending on what size company you work for.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you can scale all the way down to a single person, which is cool because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people never even look at packages because they think of CMS or CMMS and they're like, yeah, this is in the budget. We only have one or two guys doing full-time maintenance. But if you have a guy or two doing full-time maintenance, right, going
Yeah.
out fixing stuff and doing your preventative maintenance and whatnot, then yeah, a system like this would be very valuable to you. Can you talk to us a little bit about so the system's loaded, it's installed, it's running, the
Mhm.
one or two or 1,000 guys are using it to do their job. What kind of data do I get? So maybe I'm in
Sure.
charge of maintenance, and I want to make sure my team is doing good and they're being efficient and that they have the
Yeah.
resources they need. Like maybe they need training, maybe they need resources, maybe they're sharing a particular tool that they can't both, two guys can't maintain two different systems because they only have one of these things. Can you talk about kind of that data we get from not only scheduling and having these guys actually process the maintenance, but after the fact?
Yeah. So we're going to be capturing any of the hourly wages against the end users. So anytime that they're completing work orders, they have the ability to start a timer and actually live capture how much time it's taking them to complete those jobs. We'll be also capturing things like the spare parts usage. So any of the replaceable components that are going into a machine to maintain it, filters, belts, etc., as well as any external costs. So if we had to rush order and we want to capture that additional cost for shipping, if we have a third-party contractor that's charging things like mileage, all of that can be attached directly into that work order and surfaced within our reporting functionality. That is one area where we can kind of help to decide those capital asset purchases, because we can see how much it's costing us to maintain and actually decide if we should be ripping and replacing that piece of equipment, or should we be looking at doing upgrades or potentially just adjusting our maintenance schedules to ensure that it's not failing as often ultimately.
So can it be visualized in your package too? I'm thinking charts, Pareto charts, bar chart, all that stuff
Yeah.
was available to kind of give you like the bullseye of.
Yeah, that's right. So we do have global reporting that gives us the ability to see across multiple locations. Each individual user also has dashboarding. So we're seeing things like mean time before failure, mean time to repair,
Yeah.
PMP. We're also seeing completion rates. So we're going to be able to drive down into the individualized user and see how they're actually actioning the system. All of that directly within the dashboarding functionality. The information can also be sent externally. So if you're using something like a Power BI or a Tableau, we do also have full CSV APIs. So it allows you to take that information and visualize it within your reporting structure that you may have in place already today.
Okay. Okay. And you said earlier that, like, let's say the maintenance guy gets out there and it's a nightmare, right? It's not your standard, hey, let's just service this
Yeah.
machine, but there's like, everything's just kind of like, it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to take twice as long. You're saying he can capture a video or photos and
Yep.
include that with his report so that if somebody says, why did this take twice as long? They can go and they can see what he showed. Hey, this is how it was when I showed up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we have the ability to upload pictures and videos directly within the application. We also have things like voice notes, so you can actually just transcribe the information directly within the application and send it off. For those complex use cases, it doesn't have to be a single person working on a particular job. You can call for friends and help. So we have the ability within our application to function very similar to Teams and have messaging.
All
So
right.
I can actually, send a message off to my supervisor, say, hey, I actually need a millwright down here to help me do this job. Can you send somebody over? As well as like a full commenting history. So very similar to, a post on a social media website, you can actually go in and have a conversation within the commenting section and ask for support, let them know what you did, all directly within the application.
Yeah, I can definitely see some things turn into out. Maybe it's mechanical, starts off mechanical, but then you need to get electrical involved or vice versa.
Exactly.
So I could definitely see how that could be very helpful. Now I know you already talked about AI, but can we dig into that a little bit deeper? How are you guys using AI today in your product?
Yeah, so we have a variety of different AI tools that are doing things as simple as just anomaly detection. So reviewing previous history
Oh,
and providing recommendations to estimate different times. We also recently released a Copilot, not Microsoft Copilot, our own internal application. What that actually does is automatically analyzes historical information as well as the OEM manuals and then provides recommendations.
okay.
One thing that we've seen a lot of the time is somebody will show up at a machine, may not know how to actually maintain it, and we can reference data directly within the OEM manual, surface it, create it into a procedure, create it into a work order with 2 clicks of a button. So we're trying to make the maintenance action as simple as possible for our end users. And AI is a great way to do that through common language processing and anomaly detection.
Yeah, that is especially taking the user's manuals and making those available. So I don't know how many times I've asked Alexa or Siri for something. Don't talk. I should have muted her. Um, so I don't know how many times I've asked one of my voice assistants um a question and I get this bogus answer or I
Yeah,
search the web and because there's no context, right? There's no they don't
exactly.
understand the context of the question. And so AI is phenomenal. So if you're saying um maybe there's a manual on a maintenance manual for the machine. They could say, hey, what is the torque on this? Or what pressure does this need to be set at? Or
Exactly.
that it can go through and have that information available to you. I just think that's amazing. I think that's definitely a reason why people should be looking at your packages is because of that feature. And it's also great. I mean, we use it in condition monitoring a lot. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of how you're using it to look for, you know, anything that's different, anything that's not the standard common result, right? If there's any outliers, then it can zoom in on that and bring that up to the forefront and let the people know about it. The other thing I wanted to ask you really was, so the product is called MaintainX, right? And I think you was
That's right.
telling me it has multiple modules. It's kind of like,
Yep.
and there's some services that go with every onboarding because, this isn't something like Microsoft Word that people have been using for 20 years and they just know how to use. This is like the
Yeah.
products in the industry. If you don't have it, you've never used it, right? So, when people want to actually find out more, I'm sure you guys do demos, you do online meetings. Where are they going to go to find out, where to find out more about your product and if they're interested?
Yeah, getmaintainx.com is definitely the best place to start. We do have a variety of different free resources available there, documentation, etc. In terms of the implementation, we do have, over 30 implementation consultants in-house. So they're all engineers by background and training, and so they can come in, provide recommendations to help support it. We do also offer 24/7, 365 support directly within our application with a response time under 2 minutes. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you'll have somebody there at all times to help you through this process. And then lastly, we do also have a full academy. So you can actually get certified on MaintainX, go through the courses, and actually see how the system is going to be used based upon your job role within the business.
That's awesome. Great. So they can actually go through that and so they don't have to fly somewhere to go to a training class
That's right.
through the snow and the cold weather, as we were talking about in the pre-show. Um, I did want to ask, and if you don't feel comfortable going into this, I understand. But for we have a large Rockwell audience, and could you give me some key takeaways between, maybe, what makes you better than their product? And I don't want to put you on the spot here,
Sure.
but if you feel comfortable doing it, like just give us some key takeaways of why, maybe they just think Rockwell, Rockwell, Rockwell all the time and why they should give you guys a look.
Yeah, hey, I can't say anything bad about Fix. I really enjoy my time there. They got a good product. I think what really sets us apart in comparison to Fix is that mobile application. So ensuring that we're collecting that good data from our end users, we're driving adoption within it. Having that event-based architecture is also hugely important for a lot of our customers to have webhooks and subscriptions and ensure that we're pushing and pulling data from disparate systems. And then I think the last one is definitely the agnostic aspect. We're not locked into a particular brand. We are open architecture, so we can ingest data from a variety of different systems. MQTT is definitely becoming a new standard, I would say, for different applications. And so we wanted to make sure that we can ingest data from Siemens, from AB, from Honeywell, from anybody within the market. So that's hugely important for us. The last thing I would say is just the fact that we're a software company, not a hardware company with software. We have very much focused in terms of product innovation, changes, and updates. And so a lot of our development is focused core our application versus, at least in my opinion, I think the focus for Rockwell has shifted away from Fix to other applications within their overall suite. And so you don't see the same level of innovation and change that you may see at MaintainX.
Yeah, it's. I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that. I know, and I know we have Rockwell on the show on a regular basis, and we're fans of their products. We're fans of automation. So if
Yeah,
we've had so many big and small companies on over the years, and we have many more coming up in the coming weeks. But one of the thing is, with the bigger the company, it's hard to, it's actually, Fix is this whole product group that does its thing and it's different than the say the program controller group, right? That does their thing, and it's just a large company, and everybody's focused on their pieces and parts. Where you guys focus on one thing, your product. So I can
that's right.
definitely see that as, especially if you're looking for somebody more to give you more of a business to business type relationship where you're talking directly to the people and you're not going through a different layer of
Yeah,
salespeople and whatnot. So I guess with that, those are all my questions. Well, I do have one more question. Is
sure.
there anything else you wanted to cover? I tried to ask a lot of questions, but do we leave anything out?
No, I think we've covered a lot for today's conversation. I think there's a lot of opportunity to start focusing in on maintenance. It's kind of been the forgotten child within the market for a period of time. It was seen as a cost center versus an opportunity to save money, especially as we've seen, some of the challenges within our supply chain over COVID. I think it's definitely somewhere that a lot of folks need to invest more in. And so don't let maintenance be the blocker for continuous success. And hey, having good data also could be a good justification for you to do some upgrades and get some new equipment in your particular facilities.
That's awesome. And I just want to say, if there's anybody out there watching and you want to come on my Tech Talk show, maybe you're you're using one of these packages and you want to kind of share the day in and day out. Definitely, if you're using MaintainX, we'd love to have you come on our Tech Talk show and just have a chat about it because, this is something that I've always worked with people who used it, but I was never the person who actually used it myself. So I'd love to know more about that day in the life. And I do want to thank MaintainX for sponsoring this episode. You guys who are watching, you probably just realized this was completely ad free. And we can only do that when these companies come in and sponsor the episode. So, Colin, thank you. And thank you for your company. And I really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much, Shawn. I really appreciate it.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And I want to thank Colin for coming on the show and telling us all about their CMS solution. I also want to thank MaintainX for sponsoring this episode, making it completely ad-free. Really appreciate that. Hey, if you do reach out to MaintainX to find out about their CMS solution, please mention that you saw them on the Automation Podcast. And with that, I want to wish you all good health and happiness. And until next time, my friends, peace.